Most people believe that the customer is the most important person in the business, but they're wrong. The employees are the most important people in the business because they serve your customer. And most companies treat their employees like garbage. It's about human connection. It's not just to get output, but it's to also just be a human and say, I really care about you as a person and I want you to improve.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of The Process Fixer. I know I changed the name of the show. Deal with it. It was The Convergence. It's now The Process Fixer. It is what it is. Make sure you like and subscribe. Do all that kind of fun stuff. Listen, today I've got Sam Bradford from my team back. I had him on previously with Tracy Ann, and we talked a lot about culture and the things that we were working on at that point in time. It's now a couple months later, and Sam and I have been developing an entire workshop business to help improve the capacity of your people so that they show up to work as better individuals. All right, so today I have Sam Bradford with me. Sam works on my team here at The Process Fixer. Welcome once again. This is your second time on the show. I think you're going to be a regular. I think at this point, once you get on twice, you're pretty much secured. Hey, you better perform today though.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit, Sam, about 2024 because it was very opportunistic, you joining the team, coming from Dutch Bros. Yeah. We just our paths happened to cross right at the right moment when you were looking and I was hiring and I was like, and I wasn't even hiring. I was like, let's just figure this out. Right. So I was glad for you to join and we've been able to assign you to some great projects so far, and really started to see the impact, including lives, like literally lives changed and potentially saved because of some of the stuff that we've gone out around culture and helping employees obtain some capacity so that they could have a capacity to be compassionate about their patients and the customers. So let's talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing so far. And then let's talk a little bit about 2024 because we've got a whole plan for 2024 about workshops and doing a lot of different things to help organizations. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing up to this point. I mean, it's really been trying to integrate into our change management practice around culture.
Yeah. Well, first thing that we started with was a company that had clients that were struggling with eye stuff. And I just remember coming over and Tracy Ann being like, hey, would you mind sharing like a little bit? And I mean, this was like my second day and I was like, yeah, I'm good. And we talked through it and it was just magical because I got to go in and Tracy Ann set me up so well to start out saying, what do you guys, what do you do for work? Like, what are the things that are your work? And they so simply and easily just said, hey, we answer phones, we take down information, we do all these things. And they were just focused on the physical aspect. And then at the end, I got to come up with them and just say, hey, I know you guys said that this was your work, but I want to really show you what the actual work is. And I went back to my time at Dutch Bros and I talked about how I would share with our employees that you could show up every single day and think that you work at a coffee shop and you'd be right. Or you could show up every day and think that you get to make a massive difference in someone's life and you'd also be right. And it's really how you look at the work and how you show up. It affects how all that takes place. And so it was so beautiful because I got to share with them like, look, you're on the other line with somebody who's struggling, somebody who just faced something that they didn't see coming, right? And how can we show up with compassion in that moment? And how can we just meet them where they're at? And out of that was birthed this crazy idea of like, what if we got these glasses that would help these employees see what it felt like to have an eye problem. And it was just funny. And I love our dynamic, right? I bring up this idea and I'm just kind of like, this would be cool.
I already ordered them on Amazon. I was like, done. He's like, what do you mean done? I'm like, I found them. We ordered them already. You're like, what?
It was wild. And that started us doing a tour of all the different offices and literally having every employee from billing to the call center to the offices, putting these glasses on and being like, what would it be like if today you woke up and this is what your vision looked like? Because none of us think about things happening like that. None of us think about the hardships that just show up.
So it is cool how, I knew that you had done workshops at Dutch Bros.
Yes.
I'd seen your TED Talk. I had experienced you you speaking to groups And it was really, being able to say, hey, Sam, let's figure this out. Let's figure out a way to do these kind of things. And it really is. And I think what's the beautiful thing, and I know in December, we're going to go out and talk to another 150 CEOs, in the month of December, and tag team a little bit again, because a lot of what I talk about, and candidly, I don't know if I put the dots together in my head until we started talking. And that was, I talk about this concept of capacity all day long.
Yeah.
Everything I talk about with CEOs is, what's the capacity of your team? Does your team have enough capacity to pivot?
Yeah.
Are they working 40 hours a week? Because we all, as CEOs, we think, we want people to work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, technically I want their time to be filled with meaningful things. But if their time is overfilled with bullshit stuff, then when an opportunity comes around where they need to have capacity, when they need to create something or design something or educate or make a decision, they don't have time to do those things. So they can't move the organization forward. All they can do is just process the busy work that's there in front of them. So the cool thing that we've been able to do together is take that message of capacity that I go out and talk to CEOs and CFOs and COOs about all day long, build capacity inside your team so you can do more. And listen, and that you don't need as many people. Let's just be honest. If I've got 10 open positions and I don't need those anymore, I'm saving money. But what I think you've brought to that in that same conversation, when I'm saying to CEOs, we're going to reduce, you're going, and where do you want to invest that? How do you invest that back into the employee? How do you invest that back into the customer? How do you invest that back into the relationship and the engagement so that the customer walks away and goes, those people didn't rush me. Like they were here for me. They answered my questions. I feel comfortable. And then they go have an experience someplace else and they go, wow, my experience over there was so much better than it was here. That's where you get customer loyalty. That reduces your marketing budget. That reduces your sales budget. So when you think about what that does by getting this capacity in your existing systems, by eliminating this busy work and bullshit, focusing that back on your customers, it's what makes you a more profitable organization. And listen, and your people, we see it in the engagements that you're on right now. The culture has improved because the people actually have time to think and do the things that matter to them, like the stuff that they want to do. I talked about this a little bit earlier. It's like, if I'm an RN, I want to do RN stuff. I don't want to fill out paperwork. I didn't get, nobody comes to work for your organization to fill out a bunch of paperwork. They come to work for your organization, hopefully because they're tied to the mission, vision, and values of that company. And they want to affect the outcomes that affect the people. So giving them more time to do that is exactly what they want. And listen, even if they leave, I just advised the company on this recently. They were like, we had a bunch of people leave a couple of years ago and a lot of them we regret. I'm like, well, then try to hire them back. And they were like, what? Call them up and say, bro, we miss you. Like if there's ever a chance to get you back, we'd love to have you back. Because they might be miserable where they're at, and they're never gonna call you and say, can I get my job? Nobody wants to come hat in hand. So do it. You do it. Call them up and say, hey, look, I loved you. You were such a great asset. We miss you. We feel your lack of presence here. And things here have improved and changed, and we want you back on board. Like that's powerful stuff. And I love how we've done that together. And I think what we have seen, this message that we've been delivering now to CEOs is, we have a brand new customer. First thing out of the gate, I'm talking about fixing her process. And you mentioned some of this stuff. And she starts saying, I wish my people knew how to better manage their finances at home. I wish they had better relationships with their kids and with their family. And we were like, we could do that. We could bring that to you. We can teach them how to budget their money. We could teach them about debt and investments. And we could do these things. And listen, when they show up to work, you've talked about this. When they show up to work in the right mindset and they're not stressed out about their dog and their family and their money, they're better people. Right? Talk a little bit about that.
Your employee is a whole person. They don't just show up to work 9 to 5 and that's their life. Their life exists outside of work. And so part of capacity is making sure that there's so many things in life that I was never taught. There were so many things in life that school missed and my parents didn't cover. And so so many organizations will sit around and complain about how their employees suck. And not do a dang thing about it. But what if we saw it as our job to help them get better? Like, what if we saw it as our job of like, hey, instead of going, our people suck at this, what if it was our job to educate them?
Yeah.
And like, when we take that on, everything gets better. Everything gets better.
See, you just blew my mind because I just came up with an idea and now we've got to pivot once again. As you know me, man, I pivot all the time. So think about this. So they're spending 8 hours at work. What do we do with the process fixer? We try to make that 8 hours the most efficient we possibly can. We talked about this with Lucas, company he's working with on automation right now.
Yes.
Said to the employees, you only need to work. We automated it. You only need to work 4 days. 4 hours. We'll still pay you for 8.
Yeah.
I did it with a company years ago.
Yeah.
We got it so efficient. I just said, look, everybody's off on Fridays.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, but I will lose the time. I'm like, no, you won't. We'll just pay you for the whole salary. How much better is their life when every weekend's a 3-day weekend, right?
Yes.
They come to work refreshed. They want to do the work. They're excited about it. They're not, you worry about churn.
Right.
They go to interview someplace else and they're like, wait, you got to come here 5 days a week?
Yeah.
No, and you're only going to pay me for 5?
Yeah.
I go to 4 of my other places and they pay me for 5.
Yes.
That's a huge employee benefit. But then we're talking about with these workshops, because we've got 4 of them that we've already started to develop. One around finance.
Yeah.
One around understanding you as a self-leader in your organization.
Yes.
Remind me the other 2.
So dealing with hard conversations.
Hard conversations.
And goal setting.
And goal setting. But let me tell you, there's another third of the life.
Yeah.
So now we've hit their work life.
Yeah.
Trying to make that better.
Yeah.
Trying to make their personal lives better by giving them some tools. But it just really dawned on me that there's another third of our life that we spend sleeping.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I was on set all day with the crew.
Yeah.
Doing episodes about sleep apnea and why you should be diagnosed and talking to women. You know, it was really interesting, that dentist that we had on yesterday on my other show, Nexus Connects Us. She couldn't have been 95 pounds soaking wet. She has sleep apnea.
Right.
And she's like, you know what? If you don't get this treated, it actually will kill you.
Yes.
It doesn't kill you overnight.
Yes.
It kills you over the course of 20, 30 years because
crazy.
your heart gives out when you're 65 or 70 years old.
Yeah.
So now you've got me thinking about this, and we have multiple customers in the sleep space.
Let's go.
We have one that does neurodiagnostics for sleep.
Yeah.
We have one that does apnea treatment for sleep. Now I'm sitting here going, you know what? A third of our lives we spend in bed.
Yep.
If we could improve the sleep of our employees.
Yes.
I mean, we all know what it's like when you have a bad night's sleep.
Yeah.
Do you get as much accomplished the next day at work?
No.
Heck no. So now I'm sitting here going, you know what? We need to provide mattresses. What do we need to do to, I mean, you know what I do here at the Process Fixer. I mean, everybody gets an hour of therapy a week.
Yes.
That's part of our employee benefits. Why? Because you're just a better freaking individual when you show up to work and your shit's been dealt with. So now we got to get them all mattresses.
By the way, that hour of therapy has been absolutely life-changing, and I'm so grateful for it.
Good.
But I think it's exactly what we're saying. It's that when we look at our employees as a whole person, then every aspect of their life, and it's not just to get output, but it's to also just be a human and say, I really care about you as a person, and I want you to improve. Yeah. And when I help you optimize your life, everything gets better. Yeah. Your marriage gets better. Yeah. Your family life gets better. And so the unforeseen thing for me that I had no idea when I joined the Process Fixer is how incredible the fit was going to be. That we are working on making war on waste at work. Yeah. And then what I'm starting to really think about and work on is where is the magic that happens at work? Yeah. How do we make war on waste and make more time for the magic? And really just hone in on that experience with that customer and make it so incredible that they walk away going, I will never go to another place. Yeah. This is the loyalty. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you and I have both been pastors before in our past lives. I mean, what's the golden rule?
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would have it done to you. Yeah. So if you think about that, if you think about this as a leader, a senior leader in your organization, and you say, when I get a good night's sleep, when I got treated for apnea or when I went and was able to get diagnosed with the sleep disorder you have or whatever that might be, or when I bought that new mattress, it totally refreshed me and made me a better individual. Yeah. And let me focus. I love the fact we have my dog on set today. So occasionally you hear him scratching his ear or he just got up and he's stretching in the background. So it is what it is. We're going to keep that in the episode, please. Because that's what people are about. For me, it's dogs. I love dogs. So I having dogs around is like me. I love that. I love to be able to lay on the floor with a dog and hang out when we're not on camera. as he's over here wandering around. But I think that point's so valid. Like if you would do that for your own personal life, to make your life better, to make you more efficient. You know, some of people do yoga. I do float spas. Like there's things that I do, or therapy. Therapy's been so powerful for me that I was just like, we have to give this to every employee. Because my life was better. I'm a better employee.
Everything.
So why would I not make you a better, like, what are we thinking when we don't do that stuff?
Right.
It's almost so counterproductive not to provide our people with access to these things. And now here I am sitting, I'm like processing in my head because I had the CEO yesterday that was like, we should do a TV show about how important sleep is. Like, would you consider helping me do a TV show about this?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And now I'm sitting here going, you know what? Make your employees better by helping them sleep better.
Yes.
It's powerful stuff. So we've got this series of workshops. I mean, we are really moving over to workshops in a lot of senses next year. Because let's be honest, and I think it's a point to brag on. We're in very, very high demand. We are not a company that is regularly actively looking for customers.
No. We
have plenty. and we're you know, sometimes we're turning stuff away too. We're saying we don't have the capacity, we don't have the bandwidth. And we were okay with that, right? But now we've started to look at it and say a lot of the message that we're teaching, a lot of the things that we're talking about, there's a bigger demand for them than we have the capacity for. So the easiest way, of course, we want to improve our capacity, but the best way to improve capacity is figure out how to get everybody in a room and teach them all at the same time. And we're doing that with this new organization process triage that we're bringing in that allows us to really take something that takes 60 days and get it done in an afternoon or a day. We're doing that with these workshops. You know, I mean, we've all been around as leaders, and you know, you have somebody come to work and they're stressed out and I tell a story years ago. I had a company, U-Change, I was the president of, and my top performer in the company always was my number one guy, always was my best seller, always was my best poster, you know, in the work that we did. And we used to do a daily stand-up, and every morning I managed I had 27 direct reports there, but I was able to manage that business really part-time because every morning we did a stand-up. And everybody went around and we act like it was show and tell. And we would be like, Sam, what was your biggest accomplishment here yesterday at work? And when you put somebody on now you got to accomplish something. Because many times I will tell you, I can interview an employee. I can say, tell me about what you do here at XYZ company. And they're like, I service customers. I'm like, give me a good story from yesterday of how that happened. And they're like, I don't remember anything. Right? But when you're forced to come to show and tell, we all remember this as a kid. You got to think up something. You got to bring something to the table. So we'd ask them to do that. And then we would say, look, what was the goal that was set for you yesterday? My goal was 23 of these. How did you hit that goal? Yes or no? No, I didn't. Okay. So every day I would do this. And this guy every day just crushed his goals, every day. And then one day he didn't. And then the next day he didn't. And on the third day I grabbed him and I said, hey, we need to chat. And I pulled him into my office. And the second I close the door, he just starts bawling. And he's just like weeping. And I'm like, dude, what is going on? He's like, my wife left me. She locked me out of the house. She locked me out of the bank accounts. He's like, I don't have any cash. He's like, I'm going to admit, he's like, I'm living here. He's like, I'm living in the parking lot right now. He's like, I'm getting a shower here in our break room. He's like, I'm eating out of whatever, you know, if you guys got donuts, that's like what I don't have any money. I got nothing. I'm like, what do you need? He's like, I need to get through 2 more pay cycles so I can get enough cash together. So I got a deposit to go get a place. I'm okay sleeping on the floor. Like I just need to live in someplace. And then I'm like, let's do it right now. Took the rest of the day off. He and I went, we rented him an apartment. I got paid the deposit. I went and got him I was like, I got some furniture in my storage unit. We got everybody together. We got his house furnished. We got everything. We got food in the refrigerator. And I was like, look, man, now get all your stuff set up. Come back on Monday. And he was top performer again. So was it worth it? What did it cost me? It probably cost us $1,000. And he offered to pay for it. And the company said, no, it's okay. We're like, it's cool. He's our top performer. We're not stupid, right? But the loyalty that we got from him because of that. And listen, it was a good feeling. It was a good feeling to be able to do that. So I think we do have to connect. And we're fortunate that many of the clients that we work with really do care. You know, we've got a big construction company we work with right now. That is like their CEO is so committed to making sure that their people are taken care of. And there's a reason that they're growing like this because the people want to be there. They're not taking advantage because they feel like they're doing unto the company as they would do
Yeah.
if they owned the company,
Yeah.
because he's doing that for them.
So it reminds me of this concept that I heard from this guy, Danny Meyer.
Yeah.
Danny Meyer wrote a book called Setting the Table, and he's a restaurateur in New York City. And what he said was so like just controversial. He said, most people believe that the customer is the most important person in the business,
Not true.
but they're wrong.
Yeah.
The employees are the most important people in the business because they serve your customer.
Yes.
And most companies treat their employees like garbage.
Yeah.
If they would have seen that top performer doing that, they'd have been like, what's wrong with you? You need to get your crap together or you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
And then they just threw salt in a wound. But the way that you handled that showed him that he was important, that he mattered. And then once he got settled, he took all that energy and gave it to the customers, gave it to the company. And it's like, if we could just treat our people, and that's what the workshops are about.
Yeah.
That's what all this is about. It's about human connection.
It really is.
And making sure that like we're treating our people so well that when they get to interact with our customers, they have the capacity to take care of our customers.
I think it's such a valid point. It really is something that, you know, you don't have to work with us. Like, this is not a sales pitch for what Process Fixer does, but it is a mandate that you should take as a leader in your organization. If you aren't doing this, let me just tell you, you know, it's been difficult to hire and retain people the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think COVID was this pivotal moment. And actually, I dropped an episode of The Sauce, which is another show that I have, and we've been dropping it on the Process Fixer channel. But I listened to one of the episodes yesterday when I was driving up north, and one of the things that was cool about it is we talked about how during COVID, for the first time ever, because employees were so valued, and we realized how essential they were.
Yeah,
there were all these videos of owners coming out after somebody flips out on a you know, a customer flips out on the wait staff, and owners coming out and grabbing that person and saying, get the hell out of my, throwing the customer,
right,
and saying the customer's not right. My people are right. We don't need you here. And listen, I mean, it has become a thing. The reality is, I you know, my last book, Adapt Agility, was out on Amazon. And it had a bunch of 5-star reviews, like a whole bunch. And I was like, this is great. And then somebody gave it a 1-star review the other day. And I was like, good. Like, you need the detractor. You need the person that goes, this guy sucks. Because if you don't, it seems manufactured. So I'm okay with having, I'm okay with not everybody liking what I do. And I think you as a business need to be that as well. It's something we'll talk about in the next segment about how one of the workshops that we're working on right now is about identifying who that customer is and what quadrant they fall into in the first couple minutes of the interaction, so that you know how to handle them. And let's be honest, we talk about that in 4 quadrants of, hey, this customer knows what they want and they want it now. This customer doesn't know what they want and they want it now. This customer doesn't know what they want, but they want it now. And this customer doesn't know what they want. And they don't really give a shit when they get it. They're just like, whatever. You know, they're just all happy-go-lucky. But there's a 5th quadrant too. And that's the guy where you say, oh, you're here in line? How about let me show you the door? Let me escort you out of here. I mean, I talked about this in that same episode. I talked about this with a company that I was president of a couple of years back. You know, we would have customers that would call and make demands. And I would be like, oh, let me give you a phone number. They're like, who's this for? I'm like, that's for one of our competitors. Because they'll tolerate that shit. I won't. And the customer would be just totally silent. They're like, I want to talk to your boss. I'm like, I'm president. Oh. So I'm like, this is the mandate we give our employees. If that customer is not a right fit for us, they can go someplace else. And we're happy to give them instructions on how to get there.
Absolutely.
And that, talk about power. Now your employees go, okay, people back me up here. Like, the worst thing in a business is when you don't back up your people. Because then you've betrayed them. You know, it's Dante's 7 levels, right? The betrayal is the worst. So being able to actively, you know, back up and support your people, give them the capacity to think. So many times in our business, because we don't have capacity, we don't really have a chance to think. Lucas and I, the AI Daddy, just talked about this in a previous episode. Like, you have to have that capacity to make decisions. You cannot you ever made a decision while you're under stress?
Worst decisions I've ever made.
It's always the worst stuff, man. Sometimes even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while and you get lucky. But most of the time you make really poor decisions when you're stressed out. So when you have a little bit of capacity, we talked about the video from Friends the other day. You know, the Ross and Chandler video of moving the pivot. You got to, if you don't have room to pivot, you're screwed. You're not going to make good decisions. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to make bad decisions for yourself. You're going to make bad decisions for the customer. You're going to make bad decisions for the company.
Yeah.
So it's all about gaining that capacity. And one of the ways to do that is having people show up better to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing with these workshops.
Yeah. So all of this stuff came from me just suffering and struggling and like, it's all personal. It's all stuff that like I struggle with my finances. And that's part of the story of that workshop, the crucial conversations. I had the craziest conversation with my stepdad who abused me for years and had to sit down with him and talk to him about it. Everything comes from a place of authenticity and just like heart. And that's what it is. People are not in need of information. They're in need of inspiration. And so when we can inspire our people to grow and to think and to improve, we will be blown away at what they come up with.
That is such a great point. We're going to close on that. People don't need information. They need inspiration.
Yeah.
In the last episode with Lucas, we talked about informed meetings and how they're so detrimental to companies. And you're working on a project with me right now where we've done some analysis inside of a company. And this is not the first time I've done it, where we've started to look at their meetings and realize they're spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in meetings that serve no purpose to them.
Yeah.
And that's not just a cost. We didn't just lose money on that. We're literally sucking the life out of people. It's that machine from The Princess's Bride where you turn the handle and it takes a minute off your life. I mean, that's what's happening. These needless, pointless meetings. And they're all informed meetings. They're never educate, create, design, or decide meetings, which are the really powerful meetings that we want to have in our organization that moves it forward. They're always these mundane, can you give me a status on this? And I mean, it's just a bunch of bullshit stuff. And it's every organization. It's not even saying we're working on one project right now, but this isn't the first time. We find it every single company. And when you calculate it out and you start to show them the 100,000 hours they spend in these kind of meetings a year, and they go, oh my God, that's 50 people. Right. And you're like, it's the equivalent of 50 full-time people just sitting in meeting rooms all day long. Right. They go, oh crap. Yeah. And that's not big businesses. That's small to medium size. Imagine when you get to the big business side, how many billions and billions of dollars are wasted in this concept of trying to inform people instead of, what was it? They don't want information. They want inspiration. So if you could replace that meeting that they walk away with dead and frustrated and want to just poke their eyes out with a class where you teach them something useful and that they could literally take ownership of their life and change their life, your people would show up to work differently. And they would just, I mean, that's everything. They show up to their house differently. They get on the floor and they play with their kids differently. Like that's the magic. So how do we make war on waste and make more time for magic? I love it. Sam, we're going to do a part 2 of this because this is really good. We're going to go deeper on this. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Process Fixer. Help you see the bigger picture. Derrick Maines is the elixir, cutting waste away like scissor. Woo! Got a problem, he can solve it. He's an expert with the process, so for sure you'll see a profit. Bottom line profit. Analyze the work your people doing every day. Expose the inefficiencies getting in the way. Advise you how to automate, outsource, abbreviate, eliminate, innovate. Now there's more food up on your dinner plate.